What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Johnny I Pro Show. I have here no other than the legend himself, Jerry Lynn. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Johnny.
Of course, I gotta say, like, how's life? So much is probably going on right now. AEW this Saturday in Toronto. Let's talk about it.
It's a blur, especially when you got these multiple shots in one city. You know, we did Dynamite Wednesday, and now we got pay-per-view coming up. So it's always something going on. It's just go, go, go. That's why I have this, you know.
Give you some wings and to go, go, go.
Yes, oh my gosh. Yeah.
I love it. Now, is there a specific match that you're looking forward to on Saturday?
All of them.
Yeah.
I mean, whenever, I'll tell you, and everyone knows, on pay-per-views, we always knock it out of the park.
Yeah.
So, yeah, all of them.
Exactly. How about the Edge and Christian reunion after 20-some years at home in Toronto?
Definitely. And against FTR.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Canadian fans, as he said.
It's going to be a big one.
I love it. Now, 2019, you signed onto AEW to be a producer, a coach. Now, how was that?
I love it. While I was wrestling, I always said to myself, I hope I've made enough friends and connections throughout the years that when my body can't do it anymore, I'd still have a job behind the scenes somewhere.
Yeah.
And it took a while, but, and after I was done wrestling and just to satisfy the itch, I'd do a guest referee thing or a seminar here and there, or an autograph signing on a convention. But so it took a while, maybe 9 years, and then finally this job popped up. And luckily I did make enough friends and connections, and they called me and asked me to come on board.
And here we are today.
Yeah.
I can say now, obviously we're in a little music studio vibe here. You actually had some vocals on. I seen some clip that went viral. You were on stage with Fozzy.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, my gosh.
The Vulture Club. Yes. let's talk about that.
And you know the name of the song.
I did my little research, obviously.
Hey.
Let's talk about that right there, like just being in a song there.
Well, I knew Rich Ward from years ago when he was in Stuck Mojo. When I lived in Atlanta for WCW, I'd met him, and he invited me to come down to the studio when they were recording a song. So I got to see the legendary Andy Sneap's producing and stuff, and so that was really cool to see. And so Rich always knew I was big into extreme metal and stuff. So when Chris asked me to come on the Jericho cruise, I think it was a couple weeks out, he hit me up and texted me. He said, Rich has a fun idea if you're interested. And I said, what's that? Then Rich hit me up and he said, yeah, we have some aggro vocals on a song. I'd like you to sing them with us. And I was like, holy crap. I said, all right. I was a nervous wreck, though, because I'd never done that before,
But you look like a natural on stage. I seen that.
It was fun, though. It was kind of, I really didn't have it on a bucket list, but it felt like I checked off something, because whenever anyone would ask me, if you weren't a pro wrestler, what would you have done? I said I would be a lead singer in a death metal band.
Wow. Look at that. Look at how you manifested. You have a song, so
yeah.
There you go. What's your genre like to go to music? Do you like all genres? Or?
I like all genres, because I grew up, my dad would listen to like Hank Sr. and all that stuff, and then I would pull out his albums of Chuck Berry, Little Richard, Jerry Lee Lewis, stuff like that.
Classics.
And then, of course, he liked bluegrass, so we'd listen to, of course, Bill Monroe and Flatt and Scruggs, Ralph Stanley. And then, just throughout the years, a friend of mine, I'll never forget, I was 12, and a friend of mine showed me the album of Kiss Alive. And as soon as I saw the album cover, I said, I'm going to like these guys. And so I became a big Kiss fan, and back then I loved Ted Nugent, I loved Boston, Styx, and it was so funny. My parents, they weren't used to all this new stuff, and I always loved Alice Cooper.
Yeah, legend.
And they were just so disgusted about how I liked Kiss and Ted Nugent and all this rock music. I'm thinking, if you heard what I listen to now, that's nothing.
Nothing. I've heard of that, exactly.
Yeah, and as the years progressed, you just. I had to have more.
Yeah.
And I like a little bit of everything. I even like country. I love Alan Jackson, Brooks and Dunn, and
I love
Mary
country as well.
Carpenter. A lot of different stuff. I like a little bit of everything. And but metal music was always my favorite.
Favorite metal band of all time?
Oh gosh.
One. Gotta pick one.
One of my favorites is Dying Fetus.
Wow. Okay.
As far as death metal, now hardcore, my favorite's Hatebreed. And thrash, it'd probably be Testament.
Wow.
So, a little bit of everything.
I feel like putting on back here, just play some drums right now. Get the mic going.
I'd have to drink a lot of this to play speed metal,
I love it. And now on to wrestling. Now I gotta ask you now, what got you into wrestling?
I sort of fell into it. I grew up watching it. I was adopted when I was 6, and that's when I first saw wrestling. I'm aging myself now. It was 1969, and it was the AWA. And the first time I saw it, you saw these characters like Baron von Raschke and Mad Dog Vachon and the Crusher and all these stuff. And I was just hooked.
Yeah.
I just loved it right away. And then the hour before, it was every Saturday morning. The hour before was roller derby. And I loved roller derby. Of
course.
You know, I loved it all. And so I always loved watching wrestling. And in the I think early to mid 80s, we finally got cable. And now you could get every territory in the country. I didn't even know territories existed.
Yeah.
All I knew was the AWA. Now when I saw, oh my God, there's world class with the Von Erich Freebird feud. You had the NWA and Dusty and the Four Horsemen feud. You had Mid-South. You had Continental. You had Florida Championship Wrestling, Georgia, Portland. I couldn't get enough. I was amazed. I was like 20 hours of wrestling a week. This is great. And so I always loved it, but I never thought about doing it. And because when I was a senior in high school, I wrestled at 132. I was always a small guy.
Like a cruiserweight.
Oh, yeah. Very cruiserweight. 132, yeah. So I never thought about it because back then, even all the wrestlers, it was Land of the Giants.
Yeah.
Even guys on the indies were huge.
Yeah.
And so a friend of mine started dating a wrestler, and his name was Soldat Ustinov. He did a Russian gimmick in the AWA. So we went to this Bellray Ballroom in Fridley, Minnesota to go watch him wrestle, and it was just a ballroom show. And afterwards I met him and told him I loved pro wrestling. He says, well, you should try it sometime. And I said, I'm too small. And at that time I was probably 155 pounds soaking wet, and I was probably 23 at the time. And he says, no, they'll match you up with guys your size. Yeah, right. So he said, come on down to Eddie's camp and I'll introduce him. So I went down and met Eddie Sharkey, and I knew I wasn't ready, 155 pounds, and he's feeling my arms going, well, he is athletic, and I'm thinking, this guy wants my money. So I just thought, I'll start working out again, and I'll just put it on the back burner, and in a couple years, if it comes up, it comes up. Well, in the meantime, since I found out about indie shows, I'd go occasionally to an indie show, and after seeing some of the matches, I went, maybe I can do this, because they were pretty brutal. And so at the time I was laying telephone cable underground for a job, and one of my coworkers, he loved pro wrestling. So we always talked wrestling. We actually started going to the gym together, and one day he comes to work and he goes, Brad Reagan's is throwing a camp together at the last minute. He says he's taking $1,000 off. You want to do it? So he says, instead of $3,500, it's $2,500. I said, yep. So I took out a loan, went to Brad's camp, and that's how it all started.
That was your trainer from Minnesota?
Yeah.
I got you a question now. Being from Minnesota, Mr. Perfect, being from Minnesota, you ever run into him?
Oh, I was on a lot of shows with him. Wow. Great guy. Unbelievable. He's one of those, him and Chris Candido always come to mind as far as guys on the road I have never seen in a bad mood. Just loving life, loving what they're doing, always in a great mood.
Who are your favorites now growing up? Is there any specific wrestler you looked up to?
I really didn't have one specific favorite, but one person that really stood out to me and caught my attention was Hot Stuff Eddie Gilbert from the Memphis territory. And at that time, I think it was Bill Watts, UWF. But I don't know why, he just stood out to me. And what was incredible and flattering to me was he's the one who brought me down to Memphis to work for the old USWA territory.
So it's a lot of...
I was just like, this guy sees something in me. And that was I started in 88, that was over the winter of 90-91. I wasn't very good, but he must have saw something in me,
Yeah.
That's what, and then the next winter he brought Sean and I down to do our Feud in Global down in Dallas at the Sportatorium. So I was just very honored and flattered that Hot Stuff Eddie Gilbert saw something in me and gave me my first break.
Couldn't have said it better. Now, who is the best performer that you've seen yourself as just like, he's by far the best?
That I've stepped in the ring with?
Stepped it out.
Easy. Brad Armstrong.
Wow. Okay.
Best wrestler I've ever been in the ring with. It was like you were in the ring with nobody. He was that smooth, and I can't even describe it. It was just an unbelievable experience. So when everyone says, who is the best wrestler you've ever wrestled, it's Brad Armstrong, hands down.
Wow. You're going to love hearing that. Wow. Now, WCW run, Mr. JL. Let's talk about that. Before we start, as well, you said about the mask. You're very, suffocating back there. But now the whole character, how'd that all come about?
Well, at the time, I had already gone with Sean to Japan a lot for that lucha-style company. And Brad had called me when I was home. He said, will you come down and help me with the camp, help train the guys a little bit? So I did, and he was paying me. And I asked him, this is about 7.5 years, and I said, it's been 7.5 years. I said, what do I got to do to get a break? You know, I've already done USWA and Global and stuff. You know, I'm talking about the next step up.
Yeah.
He says, well, the business has changed. It's all different now. It's all about TV. He says, you got to come up with something visual to grab people's attention so they don't change the channel. And that's when the light bulb went off. I saw all these cool mask gimmicks in Japan. No one was doing anything in the States. And at the time, the Power Rangers were huge on TV. So at the time, I was working in a screen printing shop, and a friend of mine in the art department, I told him, I had him help me come up with something. I said I wanted to be part Power Rangers, part alien-like. Because I didn't want to be a blatant ripoff of the Power Rangers.
Yeah.
And he helped me come up with the design, and so I went and had the outfit made, and there wasn't a lot of gear makers back then. I had to go to a commercial company that made anything from choir gowns to wedding dresses to you name it. The labor was expensive. It cost me $1,250 to get the outfit put together, but they didn't know how to do a mask. So I went to do Michinoku's math. I think it was a 4.5-week Mask Man tournament. And
in Japan.
Yeah,
Nice.
and I brought the outfit, but I still didn't have a mask. So I showed Sasuke the outfit. I said, I want to get a mask made, you know. So I wanted it made by that, I think his name was M.I.E. He's the top mask maker. And he says, okay. And he says, but please wear our mask, that Gorgoda cross gimmick. So, but he said, please wear the outfit with it. So I did. And at the end of the tour, Sasuke hands me the original JL mask. And I go, how much? He goes, presento. I was like, wow.
Honor, wow.
Yeah, he just gave it to me.
And that's you.
And that thing would have probably been at least $400 or $500.
Wow, back then.
Yeah, back then, yeah. So once I had the whole thing together, I went to Brad's camp and he took pictures of me in it and filmed me rolling around in it. And we sent it to WCW, and they said that's exactly what they've been looking for. So they brought me on a nightly deal. Well, I got hurt. I was off for like 8-9 weeks. When I came back, they had a dozen luchadors. So now a mask really didn't mean anything. You had, well, at least a dozen people running around with masks. Since at first I was the only one.
And then just a bunch now.
Yeah.
But also in 95, 96, I believe that's when they're starting their cruiserweight division.
Yes.
So you were somewhat a part of it as well.
Yeah, at the beginning, yeah.
Yeah. And then the one thing that stand out to me, yes, I had to rewatch this match. You versus Sabu, Halloween Havoc, and he had the original Sheik.
Yes.
Let's talk about that right there.
Oh my God. So Sheik didn't know about the moonsault right from the get-go on the floor. And I didn't know he was right behind us, and we collided into him. And at first it didn't dawn on me, but later I realized he had that big saber.
Yeah.
And one of us could have got impaled with that thing, you know. But I found out after the match, you know, we went on, finished the match, and he got up and he was whatever. I didn't know until after the match we broke his leg. But he went up and he got around and finished. Now here's the real kicker. I'm laying there after the match. All of a sudden I see and feel this bright flash of light and this heat go across my face. And I didn't realize at first what it was. Then I realized, he threw a fireball at me, and I didn't know it was coming.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a little delayed cell. I'm like, whatever. I don't even know what I did. Because I was like, what the hell is that? And I get in the back, and Kevin Sullivan's hot. He's like, did you know about that? I said, no, I knew nothing about it. He said, we all could lose our effing jobs.
Yeah.
So sorry about that.
I know you swear, effing go ahead.
But and I'm like, no, I didn't know nothing about it. But you could. Sheik didn't care. He
Yeah,
said, no, he's going to go out there and do what he wants. But I think I was honored. I think I was the last person to get a fireball thrown in the face from the Sheik.
Guys, that last one, wow, okay.
Yeah, so that's another.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Like I said, now as we enter the ECW phase, now I gotta thank you, as I say, like give you your flowers for the memories that you give me. Like I'm legit a fan. I'm gonna shake your hand. Sorry.
Oh, hey, I'm sorry, left you hanging there. No selling.
No,
you.
like it's one of those things. Like, you know, the love I have for wrestling is because of ECW. I went to ECW in 2000 at the Hershey Center. Like, I was young, but that's what really started it. It was back in Spike TV. Like, I wasn't allowed to watch it, but I still watched it, obviously. My mom didn't know this, but that's what made me love wrestling.
Yeah.
So I want to say thank you for the memories. Thank you for all that, of course.
I got a good story for you then.
Let me know. Let me hear it.
In WCW, I had to move to Atlanta, and I got to know this friend of mine through Scotty Antal, and we hit it off, and we would always get together. And at 2 o'clock in the morning, on some obscure channel, this is the first time I saw ECW.
Yeah.
In '95. And as we're watching this, I'm watching Balls and Sandman trade chair shots, and these chairs are getting destroyed. Steel chairs are all concave from each other's skull, and fans are handing weapons over the rail, frying pans, microwave ovens. These guys are hitting each other in the head with it.
Yeah.
And I told my buddy, I said, that is one company I will never work for. I'm thinking someone's going to get a blood clot or an aneurysm and drop dead.
Yeah.
But after I was done with WCW, I had a tryout match with WWF with Taka Michinoku, which aired on one of them special Friday night deals. And I think Paul Lee realized I wasn't under contract, and he had Candido call me up, and he says, Candido says, yeah, Paul Lee wants to know if you want to come in for a couple shots. I said, all right. I said, here's how much I want. And I said, one more thing. And Candido goes, what's that? I go, I don't want some idiot hit me in the head with a frying pan. And he goes, no, no, no. He says, we have our wrestlers and we have our brawlers. But I learned very quickly I was going to be hit in the head with a kendo stick. Oh. I was going to go through tables, and Rob's going to kick a chunk of steel through my skull.
And here we are today. At least
so
you're
here
still
we
standing.
are today.
I love it.
But no, it ended up being probably the most fun I've had in my career working for that company, because every time I was packing my bag, getting ready to head to the airport, I knew I was going to be thoroughly entertained just by the crew behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Well, you know, besides the fans were great. The fans are what made ECW. They were awesome.
The fans, yeah, something good about ECW. I love it. It's getting chills talking about ECW. Sorry. And I got to say, now you had a series of great matches with RVD. ECW a lot. And you also had a TNA as well. But let's just talk about that. Let's wrap it all up. The feud that you had with RVD. Mm-hmm. Like, it's just, how was it in the ring with RVD so many times?
It was fun, challenging. It was rough. We played rough. It seemed like every other match, either he or I or both of us would be hard-weighed, you know. But growing up watching wrestling, I never wanted to see two good guys wrestle. To me, that was boring.
Yeah, of course.
I want to see a good guy, bad guy.
Yeah.
You know. So when we hit it off, I think we both, challenged ourselves. We wanted to make it different and exciting for the fans to see two good guys wrestle.
Yeah.
And, of course, I always wanted to make it fun for myself, too. And I think Rob did, too.
Oh, yeah, of course.
So the first time we wrestled, it may have not been the smooth. I can't remember our first match because we wrestled so many
times, yeah.
There would be 3-day loops, you know, usually. And a lot of those 3-day loops, we wrestled each other every night. And I always never liked doing the same match twice. I like changing it up every time so you're on your toes and have to think. I always think if you do the same thing all the time, you get complacent, and that's when something bad is going to happen. So I always like to have to be on my toes thinking the whole time.
Yeah.
But with Rob and I think we just challenged ourselves to give the fans something different.
Exactly.
And fun.
And it was fun. The memories were just like, I could just rewatch all those highlights. They're just phenomenal. Before you came in, we actually had the match on there as well. Oh. It's pretty good. Now, I guess this now, I believe one of the most underrated, Tajiri.
Oh, yeah.
Being in the ring with him.
It was like, in some ways, because he was a good guy too. So in his own style, in his own different way, it was almost like, you know, being in there with Rob. But you have to adapt to everyone else's style and what their moveset is. And I always loved my matches with Super Crazy.
Yeah.
Super Crazy is one of the best luchadors I was ever in the ring with. And I was in a ring with a lot of luchadors when I went to Japan, a lot of legends.
Yeah.
And a lot of the legends were great. I mean, unbelievable. But Super Crazy was just unbelievable.
Yeah.
I can't put him over enough, and I liked. There's so much good talent. I loved my matches with Just Incredible.
I was just going to say that right now.
Storm,
that was overlooked.
Chris Candido.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone wants. What I loved about ECW was, and I tell this in seminars. I say, this business is about making money, and you do that by building as large a fan base as possible. But every wrestling fan likes wrestling for a different reason. Some people like a good old school good guy, bad guy. Some people like a scientific two good guys. Some people like the high-flying luchador flip-floppity-doo. Some people like the bloody death matches. Some people like comedy gaga, like the Blue World Order.
Yes.
I love it all.
Yeah, you love it all, yeah.
But if you want to draw a large fan base, you have to give them a little bit of everything.
Everything.
You got to be a three-ring circus. And that's what I loved about ECW. So, and a lot of people say, oh, that was just blood and guts. No, they had a lot of great wrestlers. You had the Eddie Guerrero, Dean Malenko feud.
Yeah.
You had Psychosis and Rey Mysterio. So it's always had great wrestlers there.
The makeup, exactly. Now I got to say now, Anarchy Rules 2000 in Minnesota. You became the champion. Let's talk about that moment right there, especially at home.
It was what made it special was my dad was there, because what year was that?
2000.
And he hadn't been to many shows. I think he may have only seen me wrestle one or two times before, you know. But that kind of made it special.
Of course.
But, well, plus it was in the hometown, and Roy Wilkins Auditorium, where I've seen a lot of concerts. I saw War there. You know, a lot of Suicidal Tendencies. Saw a lot of concerts there. So it's special to be able to wrestle in a venue you went and saw all kinds of concerts at and stuff. But you know, at the end, it was one of the loudest things I'd ever heard, and I was just like, wow.
Full circle moment for sure.
Yeah.
And how important is family to you? Because you mentioned your dad.
Well, it wasn't. I won't give it that much meaning because, like I said, my brother and I, we were adopted. They adopted us together. He was 3 and I was 6 when we got adopted. So before that, we were bounced around from foster home to foster home until we were adopted. And then even when we got adopted, it wasn't like a normal family unit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know how to explain it. It's weird.
Yeah.
I never felt that. What a normal family unit, what the close-knit and the tightness would be, you know.
Yeah.
But over the years, like when I told my adopted parents, I said, I'm going to become a pro wrestler. But the first thing my mom said is, why do you want to get hurt? I'm like, I don't want to get hurt. but they weren't all excited about it. Like my mom never watched me wrestle. She was too scared to watch.
Yeah, exactly. Like even when I do my shows as well and stuff, like my mom will come here and there, but my dad's it's very rare. But when you do see him, it's one of those things like, you know, it's gets you like a little like, oh, like, you know,
Yeah.
like get on your toes here. Like I don't want to hear like everything. I know it's like family's obviously like it's pretty big and stuff, but just to have your dad there, seeing you in the title,
Yeah.
like that must have been good for sure.
And then that was my adopted dad.
Yeah.
And then on my retirement match, because my adopted, I can't remember my adopted. Oh, actually, I'm old, been hitting the head a lot. I'm trying to think of the time frame.
I sound like Dr. Phil here right now.
Yeah, right? Yes. It's not about you. No, I'm just so my retirement match, my adopted dad was there. And so that made that special, too. So each, you know, but...
That home is special for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Now, the one match I could ask you is this now. Steve Corino, we all know the match you know I'm going to talk about. The blood match where you wrote die with his blood on your chest. It's all over. You put Jerry Lynn on Google, that's the photos that you see is right there, that. So let's talk about that match right there. How'd you come up with that? Like,
Well, this is something I give an example of in seminars. Every match on a show is not supposed to be a steal the show match. The show is supposed to take people on an emotional roller coaster ride too, because you can't keep them up here for 2-3 hours.
Exactly.
You got to do this. Some matches are to bring the people down for the next big
pop, yeah.
Angle match. You know what I mean? And I had just turned heel, or I was in the beginning of no. I wasn't turning heel. This just started our feud.
Yeah.
So we didn't have a lot of big built-up heat, or it wasn't a big built-up feud yet. And I knew on the show with what the other matches were, this wasn't meant to be a steal the show match. So I was sitting in a metal bar with a buddy of mine who was in a metal band, Demonicon, was a death metal band, and he does sound now too for Origin and stuff sometimes and travels with them. But we're sitting there. I got to give Anthony credit. We're sitting there, and I told him, I was explaining to him all this. I said, I got to come up with I wanted to come up with one moment to give the fans something to remember. And I told him, I said, he bleeds a lot. I said, I was thinking about taking his blood and doing the war paint for a little fire-up spot. And he goes, that's not good enough. This is ECW. And I go, oh, yeah, you're right. And then I came up with the die. And so I called Steve a couple weeks out before the pay-per-view, and I said, you going to be bleeding in this match? He goes, no, Paulie wants a regular match. And I went, fuck. And he goes, why? What do you got? And I told Steve, and he loved the idea. He says, I'll call Paulie. So he calls me back. He says, Paulie, he said, let's go for it. And we did it, and 25 years later, they still talk about it. So I challenge wrestlers. If your match, and you should do what's good for business and what's good for the show. If your match isn't a steal the show match, don't go out there and try and steal the show. Come up with one moment to give them something to remember.
Exactly. And you did. We still talking about till this day.
Yeah.
Exactly. I love it.
And it's so funny when I was doing it, when I first started doing this, you could hear the crowd start rumbling and the heat start to rise in the building. And then when I'm doing this, they're rumbling even more. When I turned and they could see what it said, they're going, yeah, kill him. And I'm going, what a bunch of sick bastards. And then I'm thinking, who came up with the idea?
They just wanted more and more. That sums up the ECW crowd right there in a nutshell, 100%. Yeah. Now, you actually had the honor to have the last ECW match versus RVD. Let's talk about that.
That was very interesting because I found out 2 weeks before that we were only getting half our paycheck that week, and we were already months behind in pay.
Oh, Lord.
And so I really didn't want to go. But I went, and when I got to the building, I asked Paul Lee, I said, is it true? He says, what? They were only getting half our pay? He says, yep. And I said, well, I might not work tonight. So I went around and talked to everybody about it, and everyone was fine. And I went back and I said, nothing personal, it's just business, but I'm not doing it. But eventually he said, well, if I come up with all your money in cash for this week's pay, will you do it? And I said, yeah. And he went to the gimmick table and got my cash, and I did it. But here's the kicker. Sat down, I was getting dressed. I really didn't want to come, and I forgot to pack my tights. I had my boots, knee pads, everything. I forgot to pack my tights. So I'm panicking. I'm like, oh, great, now what? So the Musketeer, remember the Musketeer?
Yes.
He had some workout pants, like football pants. So he borrowed me those to wear. But the waist was so big, I had to have black electrical tape around the waist to hold them up.
Yeah, of course.
And so I did the match like that. And then afterwards, people were like, what's with Jerry's new look? Well, that's why the new look was there. Because I didn't want to go and forgot to pack my tights.
Well, we thank you anyways for taking that match as well. It just makes, like, just the seal of ECW just so legendary.
So it almost didn't happen.
Yeah. So guys, wow, I didn't even know that.
So
interesting. Now I got to say this as well. As you see, obviously the Impact division, you have all. We try to make it all nice and fancy. Yes,
I didn't even notice.
Yes, exactly.
I've been hitting that a lot.
Now you're actually in the ring as a newer school. Well, not new school, but somewhat to the younger generation. AJ Styles.
Oh,
how's that in the ring with AJ Styles?
And he was only, I think, 18 or 19 at the time in TNA. I can't remember, but we hit it off right away. I mean, the guy can do anything.
Yeah.
And so I had fun with him. And there was one time we're in the back sitting down, getting dressed. He goes, I'm your new RVD, aren't I? I said, yes, you are.
Wow.
So,
now I take that in. Wow, okay.
Yeah.
That's similarities.
Yes.
Amazing.
And AJ, what a nice guy. And Ring of Honor, that was when I was done wrestling. It was right before he went to WWE. They did the outdoor ballpark in New York. And they brought me in for an autograph signing. AJ says, can I talk to you a minute? And he pulls me into this empty hallway and he says, I just want to thank you. He says, I wouldn't be where I'm at if it weren't for you. I thought, what a nice guy. And I told him, I said, hey, it takes two to tango. It took two of us. But he was so nice. He didn't have to do that.
Phenomenal one.
Yeah.
Exactly. Wow. Now, of all the belts here, I'm sure you had so many other ones, but obviously I don't have the other ones. But I got to say now, these belts, like, what is your favorite accomplishment as in championship-wise? Was it winning at home, Minnesota?
I mean, that was... I can't pick a favorite because there's certain ones that are special for different reasons. Like, of course, that's special because of my hometown and the fans went nuts. A Ring of Honor was special because of my age at the time, and I was thinking when 2009, I think it was 46. And they
you still look like you're 45, actually.
You're too kind. And I was getting a lot of flack for being in Ring of Honor by a lot of the fans for being an old guy taking a young guy's spot. And I thought, I'm married, I have kids, this is what I do for a living. Am I supposed to say no, give it to someone else?
Yeah.
And I was proud of my run there. I think it wasn't easy. I knew I was a step behind. I wasn't what I was years before. This was like 8, 9 years after ECW. But I was proud of my run there and what I did with a lot of the guys because I'd have... even Chris Hero brings it up. We had a match when I had the belt in Boston.
Yeah.
And Chris, even other people will come up and that, like, especially if they're from Boston, they'll always bring up that match with me and Chris Hero. And Chris says, yeah, that was a great match, And I was an old guy. But the belt, I loved wrestling Nigel. And
McGinnis, yeah.
Yeah, he's
legend.
And I'll never forget the night. It was in Houston, and everything in that show that could go wrong. Someone pulled the fire alarm, so that delayed the show 45 minutes or whatever. And then all kinds of stuff. I think the ring may have even broke at one point. And then right before we go, the sound goes kaput. So
it's always something.
Everything that could go wrong was going wrong that night. And there's a couple matches before us. I think it was Kenta and Davey Richards were out there, and we're in the back and. There's these loud, huge pops because they're doing blue thunder bombs from the apron to the floor and stuff. And after some of them pops, Nigel looks at me kind of worried. I go, don't worry. We're going to go out there and tell our story. Because everyone knew he had 2 torn biceps.
Yeah.
And his arsenal was mainly attacking your arm.
Yeah.
So the story was just written right there. I knew his biceps were a mess. And he's attacking my arm? Well, I'm going to attack his arm.
Wow.
So I was proud of that match. We just went back and forth, and even though I was getting a lot of flack, the fans were there on the finish.
Exactly.
So I think we are told a good story, and I was proud of that night.
Exactly. Now, getting inducted into the Hardcore Hall of Fame 2010 in, obviously, the 2300 Arena in Philly. How was that moment for you?
It was a surprise, because that was at a Ring of Honor show. We were doing the HDNet tapings.
So you didn't know of this?
No, and Cornette was there. He said, you're going to be doing a promo tonight in the ring. And so I said, well, what's the bullet points? I'm going over this promo. I think 3 times I went to him and said, is this okay for the promo? And in his head, he's probably thinking, will you leave me alone? You're not doing a promo tonight, because I didn't know.
He trolled you.
Yeah, so get to the ring, and here they surprise me, and he inducts me in the Hall ofAme. So, yeah, it was just out of the clear blue. I didn't know.
Now, I got to ask you now, what promo did you write? What was it based on?
I have no idea.
What's the promo that you wrote?
Yeah.
So you're like, scrap this.
My memory's not all that great. My whole career, most of it's a blur until someone will say, remember this match in this city or whatever, and I'll go, no, and then they'll start going into more details, and I go, yes, I was there.
Yeah, exactly.
But, it's, there's certain moments that stick out, but...
Now, being involved in wrestling, still to this day with AEW, what keeps you motivated? How many years have you been in wrestling in general?
Since
I know you're 45, so...
Okay. 45, thank you. No,
1988,
I'm
wow.
62. Physically, I feel 82. My wife will tell you I'm 22 mentally.
That's all
and
you care.
emotionally. There you go.
That's all that matters.
Yeah, there you go. No, I started in 88.
So what can keep, what's the motivation?
For me now, it's when I have a wrestler and I start explaining things to him, and when you finally see the light bulb go on and they go, oh, that's my reward.
Couldn't have said it better.
Well, besides the paycheck. But
of course.
really, no, as far as... Because I love pro wrestling. I want to help keep it alive.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of things that aren't right anymore.
Exactly.
And it still could be right.
Well, as they say, wrestling's cool.
And I don't want it to be... There's a lot of aspects of it that have become a lost art form that are missing. But if you throw those aspects back into it, it could be even so much better. That's why I have a job, I guess.
That's why you're a producer and a coach.
Yeah. And I've had one wrestler... He says, can I talk to you a minute? I said, sure. And he says, I have a confession to make. I said, what's that? He says, at first I thought you were trying to hold me back, but then I realized what you were telling me was working. And I told him, I said, I'm not in the ring anymore. I have no skin in the game. I'm here to take you from indie-rific to professional.
Indie-rific, wow. I remember
my job.
As well. I was at the indie show one time as well, as explained to you before, and I seen you too, where some wrestlers doing promos, and you legit were there. You're like, hey, no, how about you do this? You're coaching them. And they love this. One wrestler, remember Maserati West, I believe?
Yeah.
Yeah, you gave him
I
points.
love West.
Yeah, he's hilarious, but you made him do it 2 times, and he thanked you for that.
Well, I got to credit New Jack. In ECW, Paulie would tell me, okay, I want you to say this and this way and whatever, and I would screw up one word, and he goes, all right, let's try it this way. And Paulie's great. He can rattle shit out of the And finally, after about 4 takes, Paulie says, all right, we'll stick with that one. And New Jack was waiting for his turn to do his promo, and he goes, I don't believe you. I said, what? He says, tell me you believed a single word you just said. He says, you have to believe it yourself for them to believe it. And that really opened my eyes.
Yeah.
I was like, you just got to let loose and go for it. You can't worry about being too cool and making a fool out of yourself or whatever. You just got to
believe it.
Believe it and throw your whole being into it. And I tell guys, like in TNA, I don't know if they initially wanted AJ to be the good guy, me to be a bad guy or something, but AJ was out there cutting a promo, and I busted him. I came out with my mic, and I told a true story in it.
Yeah.
So it was that much more believable. I said, you've never had to sleep in truck stop parking lots because you couldn't afford a hotel room. You've never had to live off a loaf of bread and a jar of peanut butter. And this is a true story.
Yeah, but
and so it came out real.
Story,
the people believed
raw.
it. So the people got behind me.
Wow.
So
I'm so intrigued.
I tell people, throw in a little bit of a true story.
Yeah.
Of
Storytelling
your life
at the end of the day.
Yeah. And then it comes off as, it's real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. I gotta ask you now, what has wrestling taught you?
Oh boy. For me, wrestling has been the study of human behavior. Because the fans are the orchestra and we're the conductor. We take them on that emotional roller coaster ride. That's the whole object of the business. And if you do it right, at the end of the night, they're going, that was awesome. I can't wait to come back. Now they're going to tell their friends, you got to see this. Now we're selling more tickets and making more money. That's what it's about. If you do it right, at the end of that show, they're going, it's over already? Oh my God, I can't wait till next time. That's why I tell any promoters, don't have a 4-hour show. You got to leave them wanting more. Don't leave them going, oh, thank God it's over. I got to get the kids to bed. And
yeah, you're going to want them.
There's a lot of different psychological aspects to the business.
Exactly.
It's about making them want more. And, well, of course, entertaining them. Give them their money's worth, And to me, it's about making everyone forget about their real world problems for a couple hours.
Exactly.
I mean, look at a movie. So to me, wrestling's been the study of human behavior.
And is there a message now to the youth that look up to you or look up to other wrestlers, like, I want to become a wrestler? What is your message to the youth that just want to become a wrestler?
The ones who haven't even started yet?
Yep.
I tell them you're going to get out of it what you put into it. How bad do you want it? I told this story not long ago. I had a promoter call me about I don't know if it was a raft gig or whatever. And I said, well, how long a drive would that be? He said, about 5.5. I go, well, that's not bad. And he laughed. He goes, I can tell you're an old timer. I go, why? He says, you said 5.5 ain't bad. I can't get these young people to drive 2 hours. So I say, how bad do you want it? Sean and I, X-Pac, when we were working for Ed Sharkey, we would drive 12 hours up in North Dakota, make $100 and drive back in time to go to work for your shoot job. We'd drive up to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan and work for Mike Shaw, make $100, drive right back. That was at least a good 9.5-hour drive. How bad do you want it?
How bad do you want it? Exactly. Wow. What would you tell your younger self right now? Say, what was your age that you started wrestling at?
25. I started late.
So a 25-year-old Jerry Lynn, what would you tell him right now?
Never get complacent or comfortable. You always have to up your game. Because there's always 5,000 people waiting for that spot. And there were times in my career I woke up and I went, whoa, I got to do something here. So I just got too comfortable in a routine. You never can get comfortable. Exactly. Always up your game.
Exactly. Couldn't have said it better. Now, the part where we're almost ending here, it's the fans' part that they love to ask these questions. A dream match for you. Someone from the past and the present. Who would it be for you?
Oh, wow. The past, it would have been probably Hot Stuff Eddie Gilbert. He was the booker at times and whatever, but I never got to wrestle him. And he's the one who saw something in me and brought me in. So I really wish I could have wrestled him. Present?
Prime time Jerry Lynn against somebody right now.
There's so many right now. Oh my gosh. Oh, boy, there's so many. Oh, I'd love to have it'd be so easy to get the crowd going if I had a match with MJF.
Oh my God, I love it.
Yeah, and of course, Ricochet, Will Ospreay. I'm trying to think. Gosh, there's so many. But there's other. Oh gosh, there's so many in our company. There's so much good talent.
But all those names right there.
And it just depends on There's certain people I would pick for a good heel face match. There's certain people I would pick for a good face match.
You can go back and forth.
Yeah.
All day.
It varies. Our company has so many talented wrestlers.
Like right now in the rosters of let's say AEW, who right now is the most impressive to you that you've just seen grow into who they are today?
Why do you put me on the spot? No. I don't want to leave people out.
No.
I feel like I've left people out. This question I can't really give you an answer.
Okay, of course.
Because everyone's learning every time. Every match is a learning experience. Another one I would like to wrestle is Brian Keith.
Yeah, wow.
Because I've coached him a few times and stuff. But you're learning every time. Yeah. And people, like you bring up the RVD matches.
Yeah.
If I've gone back and watched when I go, man, it could have been so much better. But I realize you can only work with what you know at the time.
Exactly.
And I tell guys now too. I say, if you come back from the match and you screwed up something or whatever, I tell them. I used to kick myself so hard. I was my own worst critic. And until finally I realized, and I tell these guys, we only get one live take. You don't get do-overs. So don't kick yourself over and over. Learn from it and move on to the next. So every match is a learning experience.
Whoever should be watching this episode, if you're up and coming wrestler or whatever it is, or just in general, there's a lot of gems that he dropped in this episode, absolutely. I gotta say now, the last couple of questions, You get this asked every time, but people love to hear this. They always ask who the Mount Rushmore is, but I'm not going to do that. I want to know the Mount Rushmore of ECW.
Oh,
I'd put yourself on there.
No, I wouldn't.
Well, I mean, because one of my favorites growing up. So I'm going to say now.
I wouldn't, because I wasn't there, when it was being built from the ground up. I would say Sabu, Dreamer. It's hard. Oh, gosh, who else? And, and it depends, because ECW was around for how many years? It was a while.
Yeah.
So it's almost like you got to pick different eras of it. You know what I mean? So it's hard to pick just. That's why I hate the Mount Rushmore of all time. You got to pick different eras, and then maybe you got to pick different territories too.
And it's a generational thing as well.
It's a tough thing, because there's been how many decades and decades of pro wrestling. So it's hard just to pick.
That answer I actually like that answer. Of course,
one of my favorites. I'll tell you this of all time is Ricky Morton.
Okay, nice.
He's one of my goats because he can sell, he can cut a promo. Near the end of my career, who was it? George South. I was on some indie show. This is when I was still wrestling, near the end of my career. But I was on a lot of shows with Ricky. Every time Ricky was in the ring, I was watching through the curtain.
Studying.
And George South was in the locker room, and he told me, I didn't remember this, but he said, you were watching Ricky's match, and after it was over, you shut the curtain, you turned around, and you told the whole locker room, everyone should have been watching that. And George says, I can't thank you enough.
Wow.
But I can't really give you to me, like Sabu really had a big part of building ECW,
Yeah.
And Dreamer was the consummate babyface martyr, it's like...
The innovators.
Yeah. And there were so many guys who were a big part of it, though. You had Taz, you had Sandman. It's just there's so many important people there that helped build it.
Will there ever be a ECW reunion? You think? Like bring all the old cast back?
There's been quite a few over the years, but I think it's getting far and few in between now because there's every year there's more and more who aren't with us anymore, and there's whole who knows, 2-3 more generation of wrestling fans that never watched ECW. So
you got to see.
It's hard to say. Hard to say. I think we're doing one coming up at what's the one in Winston-Salem, WrestleCade or I forget what it's called. Around Thanksgiving.
Where all the old
they're bringing in me. I think Shane Douglas, Francine, Sandman. So they're bringing a bunch of ECW people into that one.
Sure. Now, throughout your whole career, if you could sum up your whole career now, one defining moment that really made Jerry Lynn, if you could think of.
I can't because
so many.
I can't think of one defining moment because it's a constant. What's the word?
Ride, I guess.
It's constantly changing and evolving because you're learning as you go.
Yeah.
And I give this story at the end of my seminars because I think we've forgotten what this is really about. I know the curtain's been pulled wide open. I broke in before the curtain was pulled open, and people still believed it was real. And so it was ingrained in your head. Make them believe, make them believe, make them believe. And now, I think a lot of guys have given up, don't even try anymore, because the curtain's pulled wide open. It's still our job to suspend their belief for 2 hours, because even the fans, if they see something so ridiculous, they go, oh, come on. They want to suspend their belief for 2 hours. But early in my career, we did a indie show in southern Minnesota at a grade school gymnasium. And a guy I was riding with, we were the first car to get there besides the ring truck. And there were 3 little boys waiting at the front door. And we got out of the car and popped the trunk, we're pulling our bags out, and then these little boys come out and they come running over and they go, you guys wrestlers? And I go, yeah. And one boy goes, you gonna win tonight? I go, I don't know, I'm gonna give it my best shot. And he goes, oh, come on. Wrestling's fake, you know if you're gonna win or not. I told that boy, I said, tell you what, I want you to watch my match tonight. And based on my match alone, I want you to come find me after the show and tell me if you still think wrestling's fake. And sure enough, we get out to the car, pop the trunk, here come them 3 little boys. And I looked at that one boy and I said, well, what do you think? And he said, you showed us wrestling's real. I did my job that night. I couldn't have got a better compliment.
Goosebumps.
I still get goosebumps.
Wow.
That's our job.
Yeah. That doesn't motivate at your seminars. I don't know what does it. Exactly. Now, last question is this. When it's all said and done, what do you want the fans to remember Jerry Lynn as?
Wow. I guess that I went out and I gave them their money's worth. You know, and I gave them something to remember. I guess that's it. You know, you get into this business and, you know, I guess I knew I wasn't a big giant. When I broke in, it was Land of the Giants. Andre the Giant was still wrestling. So I knew I wasn't going to be the big Hulk Hogan or anything like that. But I guess I always wanted to make a mark in the industry and give the people something to remember.
And you have. I got to thank you so much for this.
Thank you.
And I'm sure we'll do it again in the future. Thank you so much, Jerry. We're looking forward to, obviously, Saturday, AEW.
Yes.
And what else do you have up and coming stuff? God bless you as always. Thank you for the memories.
My pleasure.
Until next time, guys, we are out.